Here's my top 10 for 2024. The very first game for the top 10 is Tales of Arise. This is an action RPG where you're a young man who doesn't remember anything and you're in a camp and you're being forced to work. You don't know what's happening, who you are, anything at all. All you know is you have a mask on you and you can't figure it out. So the whole game is you finding memories from your past, trying to figure out what's happening, and you have done something reckless, but now you have to live with it. You help the young woman who is screaming for help and you got her out. You help her, but then she's like, wait, why aren't you feeling any pain? Because anybody else I help or touch, I have in turn made them their pain excruciating. And now I'm trying to figure out why I'm having this happen. So you have two people who have to work together to figure out what's going on, how to stop her pain and inflicting pain, and figure out your memories. It's a great game. I love the system. The only downside is you have to make sure you figure out a strategy, because if you don't, your AI is going to burn through a lot of health and you'll have to really work at it to get your stuff back, and it's a very tedious thing. So make sure you lock in a good strategy, then you will have an amazing time. Either way, it's a great game. I recommend it for anybody. I know not many people like action RPGs, but this is a great action RPG that will start you off. It's a very nice thing, and the story is amazing. Next is number 9, and that is Goblin Sword. This is a 16 8-bit action platformer with a lot of things that remind me of like Mega Man or any of the old-fashioned NES, Super Nintendo games. You will definitely dig this. It doesn't have very much story to it other than you are a young man who is sent out to get rid of all the monsters and in turn learn magic and rectify the situation of there's an evil guy who, again, always seems to be like this story, an evil guy who is taking over the land and just releasing evil forces everywhere. So you have to work your way through all of the land and you have to find him because he's hidden somewhere in the actual spot. He's not at the very, very end. You have to keep working your way around. And once you find it, you will be enthralled by all that it is. It's a very simple game, but in turn, it has an NES hard that once you learn the patterns of every single boss, the patterns do not change very much. They only have like 2 or 3 sets of patterns for each one, and you'll be knocking it out and enjoying this game. I really dug this game. I got this on sale on my Switch, and I was pleasantly, again, surprised by a game that I did not hear about. This is an older game, it's a couple years old, and it was a game that I played for a couple months. That's how much I loved it. I just kept going through, working at it. I didn't care how long it took. I was going to get through this game, and I enjoyed the ending. It had a solid, cutscene, kind of like, NES game where you didn't see very much animation. You just saw a couple pictures flash in the screen. You saw the text, but I didn't need anything else because I enjoyed the gameplay that much. Platforming was solid. The mechanics were solid. It did have a lot of window of hitbox that had some issues, but again, that's NES hard. You had to learn, and you are very, very small, and the monsters were huge, and you had to learn how to maneuver around them. But once you got the win, you were in an awe state, and that's how I was the whole time. I was in an awe state, and I recommend this game. Definitely pick it up if you're into retro games or modern retro games. Next at number 8 is a DLC. It's God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. I don't put very many DLC on top 10s, but this one deserves it because I do not like roguelite or roguelite games. These are genre of games that I do not play very much, but this actually made it easier for you to pick up and learn. Basically, you are, again, Kratos, and you have to go through Valhalla. It's a loop, and it gets harder and harder and harder as you go along each loop. But I love that there's story in between each loop. So you'll get to the very end of the loop, and then you'll see a cutscene. you'll see that he's gone back to the island and he has to go through and figure out. And I also loved the way that they put all the characters from the game back in there. But I'm not going to spoil the story. The loops are difficult. Make sure you beef up Kratos as much as you can. And once you get that win, the ending is so amazing. I know it's been out for a couple, maybe few months, but definitely worth a playthrough. If you're not into roguelites, definitely try this out. It will be a game that will be easier than the other ones that I have played. I could not get enough of it. I definitely will play this again. At number 7 is Super Mario RPG. I did not play the original when it was first out on Super Nintendo, was not really into RPGs. And this is a short RPG that takes Mario, Peach, and Bowser and gives you a bunch of brand new characters. And the gameplay is very simple. It takes the mechanic of you have to have a timing mechanism with it, where once you hit that button under the correct time or you hold the button at the correct time, you give more damage. And I love that because you can really learn the timing mechanic and build upon it and get so much damage at the very end. It's a very short RPG compared to other ones, but I don't care because the story was good. You are trying to stop an evil force, and you have to work with Bowser for the first time as Mario and save Peach. But then eventually, you all three realize that you have to keep going and get the bad guy at the very end. I love the way that they could see the monsters on the map, and if you wanted to avoid them, you could. It's one of those games where it takes teamwork. My team usually was Peach, Bowser, Mario, and sometimes I would throw in the puppets every now and then, but I usually stuck with the three of those guys. They were amazing. Peach, she was a healing force. I did not have to worry about her. She knew when to heal all the time, and it was a great game. Recommend it. If you haven't picked up the remake, definitely try it out. It's a game that I didn't care that I paid full price. I loved it. Now for number 6, this is Ys 8. We are first time playing the Ys game, and I'm glad I got recommended this. This is an action RPG as well. You are a young man who was on a ship and you are traveling to a new land to start a new thing, and you end up seeing a kraken attack the ship, and you're shipwrecked and on an island you've never been to before. Nobody knows this island, nobody knows what's going on with it, but when you're on the island, you start having weird dreams about a young woman. You don't know what the young woman is doing or where she's at, but you see the buildings in your dream. They match the buildings that are now disheveled, and you have to figure out why there's monsters on the island and also find everybody who's lost from the ship and bring them to safety. You have to maintain the town you're living in now. You also have to maintain your weapons. You have a blacksmith. You have to find that person, and then you can upgrade your weapons. It's a great game. I love the side missions. I didn't do as many, but I still love the ones that I did. I love that you had to still go back to your little town, protect it from a monster attack. So you never really felt like you could just explore and keep going. You had to like really scavenge and keep everything going. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the mystery woman when you finally found her. And I also loved just altogether your teammates. You can choose who you want as a team. You could choose what they are. And I also loved that there was a tank. It felt familiar, but it also felt so brand new that I definitely recommend this game. Try it out. You're going to love Ys 8. It's a great game. In at number 5 is the Pixel Remaster for Final Fantasy, the very first game. I played it and I enjoyed the story. It's a game where you are 4 warriors of light. Even though I played it a long, long time ago, I never finished it and didn't get very far because I lost my save. So it felt like a brand new playthrough. Basically, you have to choose 4 people to take along with you. And I was a warrior, a monk, a white mage, and a black mage. There's also a red mage if you wanted to be that too. And basically, you have to save the beacons, turn them back on, and then defeat the evil force that is happening and devouring and bringing monsters to your world. You have to rebuild your land and also save everybody you can. And I love the game. I love that they kept it as modern as they could, but still had the NES feel to the original game. I also love the updated soundtrack. It was a 10 out of 10 banger. I can't wait to play the rest of them, so definitely recommend this. Now for the fourth game, that is Dead Space Remake. Dead Space Remake is an amazing remake of a blend of the story. You know what's going to happen, but then you're surprised when they change the story up just a little bit. You're thinking, oh, the monster's going to drop it this time, but it doesn't. I love that they had him actually talk for the first time. You're a guy who you're just doing a normal job and you're going in and you think, okay, going to see why there's a beacon that had popped up. It was an emergency signal, and you in turn realize that you are going into a disaster and your ship is now destroyed and you have to figure out how to fix it, get everybody who is on your team out, and also find any survivors. And it's a game that I was enjoying playing. The original first three, they are survival, they are brutal, but this one gives you a happy balance of you get a little bit more ammo, a little bit more health, and it lets you play it all the way through. It still has that brutal aspect feel to it. You still are on your edge of your seat, but I do like that they balanced it a little bit better. When an enemy drops, it doesn't stun you as bad. It used to be so annoying to play the original and have to be stunned for so long and worrying about how you're going to get through this. I never finished the original, and I'm happy to say that I finished this and I really enjoyed the game. I recommend it. I even recommend if you see it and it's not on Game Pass or anything PlayStation Plus, pick it up. Try it out. It's a great game, a great remake. I loved the voice acting. Phantasy Star for the End of the Millennium is another game that I played on Nintendo Switch Online for the Genesis app. I really enjoyed this RPG. This is a turn-based RPG where you are a young man who is a monster hunter and you're being trained to learn of like the basics. You think you're going to a job just to get rid of a monster at a school, only to find out that they're harvesting monsters in the basement, and you have to in turn figure out what is going on, question the principal, only to find out that it's many, many more than just what is going on here. And you have to figure out how to save your world, save other planets. And I love the system. I love the characters. They all were just like an NES game, Super Nintendo game. There is cutscenes where you just see the picture, but the story was so good. I enjoyed the side stuff. I enjoyed just going out and seeing all the new monsters. I got my ass handed to me several times, many times that I had to level up. This was a game that you have to really level up before you move on. You feel like, oh, I'm going to be okay. No. A lot of the Phantasy Star games, I've heard from other people as well, that you need to level up, and this is no exception. You have to make sure you're ready to go before you move on. You also have to pick up vehicles along the way. There's things like Land Rovers, and you have to figure out how to move. There's like puzzles in the map itself, because you'll see like little parts that won't let you walk up, but down or whatever. You have to get the Land Rover to be able to move around them. I really enjoyed this game. The ending was so epic. I love that you got to choose your final people who are going to join you. And the time of the whole way through the game, I was just feeling the feels, is the best way to describe it. There was moments where there was characters that I'm like, oh my gosh, this happened to you? Oh no. And so you were really trying to balance the game and just what's happening. And so definitely recommend it. If you've never played a Phantasy Star game, this is the best one I've heard, and I'm glad I started with this one. Again, I don't know why I keep picking just random ones for titles, but they all have been bangers so far. At number 2 is a turn-based RPG that is a modern retro game. It's inspired by Chrono Trigger and takes elements of a thing that I didn't think of. It was Super Mario RPG. And I was like, wow, I'm playing this game before Super Mario RPG. And I didn't notice that. But they take the mechanics of a lot of games from back in the day on the Super Nintendo, and they put it in with a modern feel, and I just love the story. You are two young warriors who are brought in by festivals, and you are trained, and you find out that the group of you is people that would protect the guardians, were protecting the land. But there was an epic battle, and when they are out and about, they see that most of them have been destroyed, and now they have to rebuild the town, rebuild themselves, and trained because they're one of the final ones out there. And there's an evil force stopping them and trying to make them all be destroyed so that he could take over. And when you're actually battling, you have a beautiful system. You have two warriors of light and a young man who doesn't know that he's going to be a pivotal role in the story. And some people didn't like what he got, but I enjoyed it. I will say that there's parts in the story that really made me angry that I was playing it through at the very end, but I wanted to see the ending, and so that's why it's not number one, because of that reason. I was literally crying. There was a part where I was like so upset at what had happened that I was like, I want to finish this through. I want to see what's going to happen. And I can't spoil it, but if you played the game for Sea of Stars, you know what I'm talking about. And I really enjoyed these side missions, and I really enjoyed in the tavern, there was a mini game where you pick up figures and you learn how to play the game. And it's kind of like Queen's Blood for Final Fantasy VII. I still need to play that game, the remake, and you definitely will enjoy the mini game. You will want to pick up figures, you'll want to see all the battles, and it's a great game. I recommend it. If you haven't picked it up, there's physical copies now finally, so definitely a great turn-based RPG. And finally, the number one game of 2024 is Resident Evil 4 Remake. Just like Dead Space and other horror games that have been remade for this year and past couple years, they took a great story, a game that I didn't think needed to be remade, and they made it better. They fixed a lot of problems that I had with the first game, and I know a lot of people, they think, oh, you could look past it, you could hide her, but Ashley's part was very annoying to me. I was so annoyed with her yelling at me constantly, save me, help me. It was so mind-boggling how much she yelled. And I understand a lot of people, they just got over and they moved on, but for me, it was annoying, and it haunts my nightmares to the point where I was just like, that part I could skip. Like, if I want to, I could skip this part, but it's an amazing remake. I loved what they did. I loved that they took it in and put it in the RE engine. I really enjoyed that it was over the shoulder, just like the other games. I'm really into third-person horror games, and I also loved that it was very action-based. There was quirkiness. It was kind of sad that they took out like one-liners, but I could forgive it because it was a lot better than Resident Evil 3 Remake. I'm so sad at Resident Evil 3 Remake, don't get me started, but I really enjoyed the voice acting was great. They did a good job, the two people that were playing Leon and Ashley. I also liked that the evil villains actually felt really scary. I felt very claustrophobic at times. The people that are running at you from the very beginning to the castle part, I never felt safe. I never felt like I could actually take a breather in a good way. And I recommend that you try this survivor horror game. It's a great game. If you have not played the old one, it's okay. And that's why it's number one. And there you have it, everybody. That is my top 10 for 2024. Let me know what was your top 10. If any games that didn't make it to the top 10, do you have any honorable mentions? Thank you for watching. I had a fun year. I hope you all have a great 2025. Play a lot of amazing games. And I'll definitely catch you all next time. Bye, everybody.
She's here to amaze.